Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Michael Yardney podcast. If you're interested in success, more money, better property investment, boy's today's show for you, as I've got three segments that I'm sure are going to help you. Firstly, we're going to talk about the single greatest trait of successful property investors. Actually, it's probably one of the biggest traits of success in all areas of your life. I'm also going to have a chat with Ken Race about land tax. Gee, that's a tax I don't like paying, and one I have to pay a lot. I see it as a wealth tax. But anyway, let's understand a bit about it, when you have to pay it, how you can avoid it, if at all, and what one can do about it. And then in my mindset moment, it's a special session that's a little bit longer where I'm going to give you some hints to help you achieve your goals in any area of your life, not just investment. It's a trick that many successful people do to beat the odds, beat the system, make them more likely to achieve success. Now, wouldn't you like that? So, let's get on with the show. Welcome to today's episode of the Michael Yardney podcast.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's most trusted property commentator, who has once again been voted Australia's leading property investment advisor. That's the fifth time he's won a similar award in the last 7 years.
If you cornered me and asked me to come up with the one single trait that I've found common among successful investors, what would it be? Well, obviously, there's lots of important factors underpinning success, but after recently speaking with Robert, I've come to the conclusion that there is one critical attribute that stands above virtually all those others when it comes to creating success in your investing, in wealth creation, and probably in all areas of your life. You see, at the recent round of seminars I did around Australia, Robert came up to me after attending one of my seminars, the seminar in Sydney actually, and he thanked me and he said he learned a lot and he was inspired. He always comes up and says thank you after. He's a really nice guy. And it's not his real name, because I'm about to share the story, and it is true, because he said to me that he'd been to almost all of the seminars I've conducted once a year in Sydney, and that's been over 16 years now. And when I asked him how many properties he owned, he told me he was still getting ready to buy his first investment. He was waiting for everything to be just right. Yet this is a true story. Of course, I couldn't help myself. I had to tell him how much wealthier he'd be today if he bought almost any property when he first considered investing 16 years ago, even if he would have made a terrible mistake and bought the wrong property in the wrong location. I remembered back then people were paying less than $300,000 for an average house in Sydney, $245,000 in Melbourne. They only had to pay $144,000 for a median house in Brisbane. Perth's prices were a bit higher at $149,000. Darwin was even higher than $188,000, $128,000 in Adelaide. And if you were to buy a property way back then, it would have been $113,000 in Hobart. And if you fast forward today, despite the fall in property values over the last couple of years, look what you'd be having to pay for that same house today. So what is it? What is that characteristic that all successful investors share? And it's that they make decisions and then they take appropriate action. Way back in the 1930s, in his classic book, Napoleon Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich, he outlined 17 principles that he found to be responsible for the success of the world's top business leaders of his day, almost a century ago. And he discovered that most successful people had the habit of making swift and committed decisions. Now, of course, that principle is just as relevant today, and it holds the key to determining the success that you're going to achieve in your life. I found successful investors gather all the necessary information they need, and then they make an informed decision, and then they take appropriate action. They're able to see the big picture, and they don't get stuck in the detail. And even when they don't have all the information they need, they believe it's better to actually make a decision with some information, knowing that they're going to be able to get all the rest of the information later. They think it's better to make a decision now than not make a decision at all. Of course, they don't always make the right decision. However, over time, the number of correct decisions these sort of people make far outweigh the incorrect ones, and it propels them to investment success and to success in all areas of their life. So it should come as no surprise that the other side of the coin is that those people who procrastinate and avoid taking action rarely achieve much success in their lives. So why is taking action so hard, so daunting for many people? One of the big things that holds many people back, I've found, is fear, especially the fear of making an incorrect decision or the fear of failure. The problem is, as human beings, we like to feel in control. We like to have choices. However, when you take action, when you made a commitment to one particular choice, you therefore eliminate other choices that you could have made. So subconsciously we procrastinate, thinking it's left us with options. The trouble is, we really have made a decision. The decision is not to make a decision, and that decision has its own consequences. So let me ask you a question. Do you find it hard to make decisions? Currently the world's riddled with uncertainty and unpredictability, and this makes it difficult to be sure what action you should take. And I can understand why, for some people, this may lead to procrastination. However, if your life isn't where you want it to be right now, it's likely you're not making the right decisions or you're not taking the appropriate action to move forward. So how do successful investors make the decision? How do they actually take action? The fact is that successful investors are faced with just as much uncertainty in their lives as the rest of us. However, they manage to take action because they've got focus. They've got clarity about where they want to be. That's right, successful investors follow a plan. They know exactly why they're investing, and they've got a proven finance strategy to see them through the ups and downs of the property cycle. They've got a proven property strategy, one that's worked in the long term rather than one that's just working now. So therefore, they have the backing of known, proven, trusted strategy. And they also have tax and asset protection strategies to minimize their risks. So every time they make an investment decision, they evaluate their actions and the potential consequences in light of these plans, in light of these goals that they've set themselves. And if the action moves them closer towards their goals, they go for it. Now, clearly this makes their investing more predictable, their decisions less emotional, and their results more consistent. It's no coincidence that when I became clear in my goals years ago and I began associating with other successful investors who were already very clear in every aspect of their investing, it took my investing, my business, my success to a whole new level. The interesting thing is that when you start associating with successful people, you begin to change. Without even knowing it, you act, you talk, you think, you dress like them. You begin to see things in a positive way. So the lesson from all of this is to make a commitment to yourself to start taking decisive action and start moving yourself closer to your investment success, to the results you desire. Now, unfortunately, it's harder today in our schizophrenic economic climate. And that's why it's important to understand that there are 4 types of knowledge you need to seize control of your financial future, to make the most of these current turbulent economic times and the unusual property markets we're currently experiencing. You're going to, first of all, need unbiased economic insights. Number 2, you're going to need education based on proven property investment principles and strategies. Number 3, you're going to need guidance from experts who've been there, who've done that, who've achieved the results you want to achieve. And number 4, you're going to need insider information so you can spot market trends that are hidden from the average investor. You're going to need to get information from people who've got perspective because they've done the hard yards, they've been around. So in my mind, that's why it's critical to learn from experienced and successful property investors, from somebody who's already achieved what you want to achieve and who's retained their wealth in the long term. And that's why I have these people on my property update blog every day. If you get my newsletter, you'll get the information from Australia's leading experts who've been around the block. That's why I invite them as guests on this podcast, why I do the regular Property Insider videos with Andrew Wilson and others who've been around for a long, long time. So thank you for allowing me to explain to you the single greatest trait of successful investors. They take in all the information, they evaluate it, how it fits in with their long-term goals and plans, and then they take action. Now it's your turn. In a moment, I'm going to have a chat with Ken Race about land tax, and then in a prolonged mindset message, I'm going to talk to you about a concept that's likely to help you achieve your goals in any area of your life much faster and easier than you can imagine. And it's not just rah-rah, it's based on science, so stick with me. But before I have a chat with Ken Race, just following on what I mentioned a moment ago, if you're wanting to get more success in property, if you're wanting to take advantage of this new property cycle that we're experiencing at the moment, it's too hard to do on your own. Why not get my team at Metropole on your side to help you? Now, in my mind, you need more than just a buyer's agent. You, in fact, need more than a property strategist. You need somebody who's able to give you a holistic approach. You actually need a team that can give you a holistic approach to wealth creation with a property strategy, but also a finance strategy, a wealth creation strategy, a wealth protection strategy, financial planning. And they're amongst just some of the services that my team at Metropole provide, as well as property management, renovations, development. Why not go to metropole.com.au and find out a bit about our services and have an obligation-free chat with my team? You may just need a book. You may require a strategic property plan built specifically for you, or a more detailed wealth plan built by Ken Race. I don't know what your needs are, but why not find out what Australia's most awarded team of property strategists and wealth advisors can do to help you? I look forward to being part of your wealth creation journey. Go to metropole.com.au, leave your details, and we'll be in contact with you, or contact us at 1300 Metropole. What is land tax? Who should pay it? Does it apply to my home? And can I reduce this major property cost, which just seems to be eating away at my rental income disproportionately? These are the sort of questions that are often asked by serious property investors who already have or are in the process of building a significant property portfolio. So to answer your common land tax questions, I'm going to have a chat with Australia's leading tax strategist, Ken Race, Director of Metropole Wealth Advisory. Welcome, Ken.
Hi, Michael.
Now, I'm sure you get asked these questions a lot, and these are the questions that the property strategists at Metropole are asked and that are left on our website. So let's work through a couple of them. The first question, Ken, what is land tax? Because to me, it just seems like a wealth tax.
And many of our clients and non-clients think exactly the same. So land tax is exactly that. It's a tax that is applied on an annual basis to the land value of your investment property. So it's not the total value of the property, it's only the land component. And each state has got a different level that they apply, but it's charged annually. And as your land values grow, as we all hope they do, your land tax assessment bill will grow.
Now, what happens is, of course, it actually doesn't grow proportionately. It seems to add more the higher your levels get, a bit like tax rates, Ken.
Different states have got different calculation methods. So as an example, New South Wales has got a flat rate that it is applied. Different states have got incremental rates that they apply, similar to the marginal tax rates.
Now, it's interesting because like other taxes, Ken, this is a self-assessment tax. So you've actually got to submit a land tax registration form or variation form when you buy a property, or depending upon which entity owns the property, Ken.
Correct. So the actual land value is determined by the government through the Valuer General. And as a quick look to see what approximate value there is, if you go to your rates notice and have a look at the unimproved capital value, that'll give you an indication of what the government is using. But you need to register. So you register for land tax purposes, and if there's a change in your circumstances, you've got to do a variation.
Now, the land you own and occupy as your home, as your principal place of residence, that's exempt from land tax. And each state has also got a threshold. Is that correct, Ken, where above a certain rate you pay land tax?
Correct. So let's start off with the home. So most states only give you that free land tax benefit if the home is in your personal name. But more importantly, you're using and occupying that property as your home. then you would be land tax exempt. Now, different states have got different methods of calculation. So some apply a flat rate. Others have got a threshold where, depending on what that threshold is, the land tax is zero below that rate. And then there's a land tax that applies post that. And one of the things we've seen as a way for the government, state governments to increase the land tax is if there's potentially a foreign owner, then there's an additional surcharge levy applied to land tax, which effectively basically doubles what you would have otherwise paid if you're a resident owner.
And also in some states, trusts and companies are charged a different, more expensive land tax rate, Ken.
So they're either charged a different rate, a higher rate, or the threshold where the land tax begins is lower. As well as that, there is a surcharge for land tax in most states once the dollar value gets to a certain level. So call it a higher level, then there is, can I say, more punitive land tax rates, because the government assumes if you own land at such a high level, you can afford to pay more.
And that's why I call it a wealth tax, Ken. But the questions that tend to be left on the Property Update website are about varying your home a little bit. So we know that your home under normal circumstances isn't subject to land tax, but what if a couple owns it? What if I own it in my name and my wife's name, my partner's name?
That's very important, particularly if it's an investment property. But coming back to your question, if it's the family home, then as long as the occupiers are using it as the family home, then you get the exemption. So if you've got a couple and the ownership is just in one name, as long as the couple are living there, they both don't have to be on title. But I had the circumstance very recently where a property was owned by a brother and his brother, and half the property was being used as an investment. It was a dual occupancy site, and the other half was being used as the brother's owner occupied. So therefore that site was only entitled to half the land tax exemption, representing that half that the brother was living in there as their home.
Ken, what happens to land tax if I move out of my home, if I choose to use it for an investment for a while?
So it now becomes an investment property when you move out, and you've got to go and advise the individual state government that that property is, that you're now no longer using it as your home, but as an investment. And you would now start getting a land tax assessment. Depending on the value of the land and what other land you own, you could be now having to pay land tax.
Now, some people are going to confuse this with that 6-year exemption absence rules for capital gains tax. These are very different things, aren't they?
Very different rules, and one's federal government, so it applies equally across all the states in Australia. That's the capital gains tax, where if you move out of the home, you get a 6-year absentee benefit. But land tax exemption only applies if you live and occupy that property as your home. So when you move out, it's now an investment property. So the state government would now look at applying land tax.
Ken, are there any traps, any tricks that as a homeowner or property investor we should watch out for with regard to land tax?
I think there's two. The simpler one is if you're using a trust to own that investment property, what is on the title is the trustee. So if it's a company has a different land tax calculation and methodology than a trust would. So the computer system for the state sees a company name and applies the land tax rate for a company. So if you didn't register and identify there was a trust, you're actually underpaying in most states your land tax. And if you ever got an audit, you would then have to pay the additional amount. So it's very important when you're buying a property off somebody to actually get a land tax clearance certificate so that you as new owner aren't liable for the land tax of the previous owner. because land tax for most states comes out, the assessment in February, based on the prior year. So if you've bought in that intervening time, you are now the owner, you would have to pay the land tax for the previous person. So make sure you get a land tax clearance certificate when you're buying an investment property. And secondly, make sure that you're properly registered so the correct rate is being applied for your specific circumstances.
Great tips. Now, a lot of people buy investment properties and trusts. So up to now, we've talked a bit about homes, but do all trusts have a higher level of land tax applied to them?
Look, I think you'd have to say as a umbrella answer, the answer would be yes. Particularly in New South Wales, it's much more punitive. Victoria is the same. Queensland has different rates for a trust versus an individual. Some of the other states don't make a distinction. But you've really got to ask, what are you trying to achieve by using a trust? So a lot of our clients use trusts for very specific reasons, such as flexibility, asset protection, estate planning, and they still use the trust for those benefits, notwithstanding maybe there's an additional land tax to pay. So be very careful on why you're using a particular structure and balance the pros and cons.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, clearly the advice we're giving is very general advice. So I think we've got to give a disclaimer, Ken, that land tax is a state-based tax and this is really broad information. And so it can't really do justice to your own circumstances. But if you've got any questions about this, in my mind, Ken Race is Australia's leading tax strategist. So why not have a chat with Ken or his team at Metropole Wealth Advisory? And the website's on the screen at the moment. So if you go to Metropole and have a chat with Ken to understand what your tax obligations are. And it's best, Ken, to do that before you buy a property to make sure you set it up the right way.
Correct. So make sure that you've identified the correct structure to buy in, which means you have to have that completed prior to purchase. That will also, in some limited circumstances, maybe impact on your borrowing capacity. So you want to have that discussion with your finance strategist as well. And then make sure that you register correctly so that you're paying the right level of land tax at the appropriate time.
And you can't leave that to your solicitor or conveyancer because the name on the title is not actually the owner if it's in a trust. That was a really great point you made out because I know a number of people who got caught with that and ended up having to pay quite some penalty rates. Thank you very much for your time, Ken.
Thank you, Michael.
Now here's Michael's mindset message. Remember, a change in your thinking will lead to a change in your life.
If you expect to achieve your goals, if you expect to reach your full potential, if you expect to have your dreams come true, what I'm about to explain to you in today's mindset message is mission critical. And it's that you must become a master at visualization. Now, if you're thinking, what's Michael on today? Let me explain to you that there's science and research behind what I'm going to explain to you. Visualization is an extraordinarily powerful skill. Now, if you're thinking, hey, no, I don't want all this woo-woo stuff and this metaphysical stuff, then thank you for listening to the podcast so far and turn off and come back next session and listen to the hard stuff and the facts and the property information. But if you want to become successful in life, whether it's at property, at investment, in your marriage, in your career, in your business, or even if you're still studying, you're going to have to change because the world isn't going to change. So I'm going to show you a way that many, many successful people use to become successful in all areas of their life, not just in business, but in their personal achievements as well. Now, you've probably heard about this concept of visualization, but please bear with me because this will be a little bit different to the normal things we discuss, but it's what I've learned over the years to help my success, and I know a lot of people in my mentorship program have found it very, very valuable as well. Look, you may have heard of this concept of the brain having what's called a reticular activating system. It's a network of neurons, and their job is to act as a filter. The reticular activating system allows certain information into your brain, and it blocks out other information. And guess who programmed that filter that blocks things out. You did, and so did the people and your experiences from the past. Now, you've heard me talk about before that your thoughts lead to your feelings, and your feelings lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. So your inside world definitely reflects on the outside world. So we do have to work on the inside world to make the outside world more successful. Anyway, back to the reticular activating system. You've probably heard the story about, if you're suddenly thinking about buying a white Toyota, all of a sudden, whenever you drive down the road, all of a sudden you're going to see these white Toyotas pop up everywhere. Or if you thought of buying a fridge, all of a sudden the ads on television or in the papers of the leaflets you get in the mail about refrigerators. Your brain filters out information and looks for certain things as well. That's what your reticular activating system does. So if you constantly feel like you're not good at something, your reticular activating system is going to go through the day and it's going to point out every single piece of evidence that confirms that negative belief. The belief that you've already got. And if you think that people at work don't like you, your reticular activating system, your filter, is literally going to be looking for evidence to confirm that belief all day long. Now, you've probably also remember me writing about confirmation bias. Confirmation bias means that your mind loves to read things that you agree with, because reading things you agree with confirms your filter. Okay, so why do we have a reticular activating system? There's a really, really important reason for this. The reason is that if your brain lets everything in, you just couldn't handle it. So it filters out what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you experience. Look, think about it. If you ever looked at a Facebook page, just imagine what you've got there. You've got all those words on the standard page, and there's an ad over there, and an ad over here, and there's another thing down the bottom there, and stuff up here, and stuff over there. You just look at that page, and your brain, if it looked at everything equally, your head would literally explode. Your brain would melt down. So your reticular activating system protects your brain. Just like it actually filters out other things. You probably don't notice that you're sitting on a chair at the moment, or you're walking. I don't know what you're doing as you're listening to this podcast, but if you were sitting on a chair, all of a sudden you're going to feel the chair on your backside, or if you're walking, you're actually going to suddenly notice your legs moving and the feet onto your ground. But before you didn't, because the reticular activating system cut it out. It does it by filtering information and only letting in stuff that's necessary at the time, or only letting in things it agrees with. So that's the scientific reason, and why you've got to get busy reprogramming your brain. So now we're going to talk about how you could use visualization in order to start reprogramming your reticular activating system, so your brain starts to spot opportunities. Just like, as I said a moment ago, if you're looking to buy a white Toyota, you're going to see them all over the place. We want your brain to start spotting evidence that's going to help you get to where you want to go. Coincidences that are going to build up momentum. And you can get this going by visualization. Now, I hope you've got some goals, because if you don't even know where you're heading, if you haven't got goals that you're going to, and if you haven't actually written them down, how's your reticular activating system even going to know what to look for? That's one of the reasons that in every book on success, any discussion on success, it's said that you have to have goals. You need to have those first, so you know where you want to head. Next, I want you to go to each of your goals, and I want you to do a visualization exercise. And here how you're going to do it. It's based on science, as I said, because there's a particular way you have to do this for the science to work. So it's a two-step method. If your goals to improve, let's say, your goals to improve your self-worth. I want you to visualize what life would be like and how you're going to feel if your self-worth is improved. Now, another one, maybe you're going to want to lose weight. So I want you to visualize what you're going to look like, how you're going to feel, the nice clothes you're going to be able to wear when you have lost the weight. So to do this, you actually have to close your eyes. Yeah, truly. You actually have to. I know it sounds stupid, but I want you to close your eyes. Now, not if you're driving in the car now while you're listening to the podcast, but I want you to do this every morning. I want you to pull out your list of goals, and I want you to close your eyes, and I want, in your mind's eye, to have a specific picture of what it would look like in your life when your self-worth is improved. If you're feeling a bit down on yourself and you don't think that you're worthy, or if your weight has improved, if that's what your goal is, or you're financial position has improved. You're going to, let's talk about the self-worth thing, because that's one that I know some people feel that they're not worthy and they don't get as far in life as they should, whether it's in their business or in other areas of their life. So maybe you'd visualize yourself getting up at work and speaking, standing up for yourself, speaking to your colleagues more, getting more out of your life. Maybe you'd see yourself leaving bad relationships that you're involved in at the moment. Maybe you see yourself defining boundaries. Maybe you see yourself going to gym. Maybe you'd see yourself taking care of yourself more. But whatever it is, I want you to start visualizing the image of what you're going to be like once you have lost the weight, improved your self-worth, got the extra money, whatever that particular goal is. I want you to not only visualize yourself, but I want you to consciously think of the positive emotions that you're going to feel. So this is the second part. The first part is to visualize it. The second part is to feel it. You're feeling proud. You're feeling happy. You're standing taller. You're grateful for what you've got. There you are in your mind's eye. There you are at work, raising your hand. Amazing. There you are sharing your day, getting the promotion, getting the raise, signing up another deal, getting another customer, buying an investment property. How good it feels. And when you do that, you're actually making your brain think it's happening. That's the cool science behind it. You're training your brain to have a totally different filter. You see, your brain doesn't know the difference between something that's actually happening to you and something that you're imagining. So it remembers things that happened to you years ago, the bad things that happened in your life and your relationships, in work, with money, at school. But let me say that again. Your brain doesn't know the difference between the bad things that actually happened, the real memories, and imagined memories that you're creating when you're visualizing. Your brain will visualize you going to the gym. It'll feel the experience the same. It'll visualize how happy you feel when you've actually lost the weight, or when you've been confident in work and got an increase in your salary, or how proud you're going to feel when you've taken the leap and bought the investment property. So what I'm trying to teach you to do is retrain your brain, encode it, because when you do, when you're visualizing these things every day for 30, it's not going to take long, 30 seconds. What you're going to do is create a real memory. It's as real in the brain as other memories. And that's the important thing. You're creating these memories that change the filter in your reticulating system. Now, it's not Michael just saying this. This is based on science. The more you visualize things, the greater your confidence is going to be, the greater the security you're going to have about it, but also the more you do this with your goals, if you wake up every morning and just take 30 seconds to visualize having a great day ahead, visualize curing your nervousness, visualize what you're going to feel like or how you're going to feel after the gym. Remember, not just what you're doing, but how you feel. Studies suggest, and it's been proven, that simply visualizing yourself doing things, you're actually going to develop the skill. Now, it's more than just visualizing. This isn't just the law of attraction where you sit there and things are going to happen to you, because that doesn't work. You're actually going to have to do things as well, but visualizing helps you improve your skills, just as if you're actually doing it. So there's proof based on research that visualization helps build your skills. The other thing that's really important is that the more you do this, what we know from research is the more you do this, you start to believe that you think as you're reprogramming your mind, you're changing the neurons, you're changing the filter in your brain. That's what it's been shown to happen. So the more you actually believe in yourself and you start thinking and visualizing about whether it is losing weight or speaking up or getting rid of the bad relationships, the more confident you're going to become, the more skills you're going to build. And instead of looking for reasons for not to do things, you're going to start looking for reasons, finding reasons to do things. You're going to speak up, you're going to act, you're going to do things, you're going to go to the gym. That's why it's incredibly important to, number one, set goals, and then every day for the next 30 days, every single day for the next 30 days, spend 30 seconds, a minute, visualizing your dreams and feeling. Remember, you deserve that. Your dreams deserve 30 seconds to a minute. Don't you think that if you close your eyes and visualize what it's going to feel like when you've lost the weight, when you felt more confident, when you've achieved your goals, don't you think you're going to feel better? So try it. How does it feel when you're going to look online and see the bank balance in your account is higher? How's it going to feel when you can take your kids on vacation with the money that you've made? How does it feel when you've built a property portfolio that's going to lead to financial freedom? How does it feel to being able to save enough money that you can quit your job and launch into a business to achieve your goals? I don't know what your goals are, but when you visualize your goals, I tell you, it's going to feel good. It's going to feel very, very good. And I want you to savor that, because what you're doing when you visualize it is reprogramming your reticular activating system, that system of neurons that network, that act as a filter in your brain, so that it's going to start spotting opportunities. So it's going to start looking for evidence that's going to give you the confidence and the capability, instead of all the garbage that's in there right now that's stopping you achieve your goals. So thank you for listening to this slightly longer mindset message. I hope you can hear my passion about this concept. Why not give it a try? The worst you're going to waste is 30 seconds, a minute a day for a while. If that doesn't do anything, big deal, you've wasted a couple of minutes over the next month. On the other hand, imagine the good it could do if you set your goals, you visualize them, and you feel the success every day. Well, we covered a lot in today's podcast. I hope you got some benefit from it. And thank you for listening through that longer session on visualization. Why not give it a try? If you got some benefit from this, why not tell somebody about it? My aim is to help as many people as possible become financially independent, become more successful. Please help me in my goal and share the message with as many people as you can. Just tell them about the podcast. There's always a share button at the bottom of every podcast app. As well as that, why not leave a review? And if I read your review out, whether it's 1 star, 5 stars, and 90% or 95% of 5-star, I get a few 4-star reviews, that's okay. Just leave me what you think. And if I read it out, email me, michael@metropole.com.au, and I'd love to give you a book as a way of saying thank you. I'm going to read out 2 reviews I got, actually still at the end of last year. I apologise, I'm a little bit tardy with getting through them all. There are so many of them. But Jamie Leith wrote, as part of my daily morning ritual, I listen to one of Michael's podcasts, and it starts my day off on a high. The podcast delivers experience and educational information in all areas to achieve success. Thanks for your knowledge, Michael. It helps me a lot, Jamie. Well, thank you, Jamie, for leaving that review. And I bet you'll get some benefit from today's session. And there's also one left from Snuffman number 1 on Apple Podcasts. He left that just at the end of last year saying, a wealth of knowledge. Michael, thank you for dedicating your time to create this podcast. I'm currently looking into purchasing my second investment property with my wife. Your podcast gives me that extra boost of confidence and knowledge around the Australian property markets. So many great pieces of advice I'll put into practice my own journey. Continue sharing it with others too. Thank you, mate. Luke G. Well, thank you so much, Luke. And I hope you got some benefit from today's show. If you want to get more information from me, subscribe to Property Update at propertyupdate.com.au, and you'll get a daily smattering of property success, money, finance information. And follow me on social media, YouTube, Twitter, Michael Yardney, Instagram, Facebook. I look forward to being part of your wealth creation journey. Catch up with you again real soon. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favourite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael, but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?